Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are on book 2, chapter 9, Guardian Angels, Sympathetic, Protective, Sympathetic, and Familiar Spirits. We stopped last week on question 506. So we're going to start today on question 507. Again, just a reminder, we all have a guardian angel or a protective spirit, all those incarnated on earth. We saw a question last week talking about that all those incarnated on earth still need a guardian angel, a protective spirit. And we are also surrounded by sympathetic spirits and familiar spirits, and we'll see a little more of that in the next few questions that we're going to go through. Okay, so Philip, can you read for us, please?
507. Do all protective spirits belong to higher orders? Are they sometimes average? Can parents, for example, become spirit guardians to their own children? They may, but this would presume a certain degree of elevation and a quality granted by God. Parents who watch over their children may themselves be assisted by a more elevated spirit.
Again, the question here, we have to suppose that the guardian angel is discarnated, right? It's a spirit in the spiritual world. So if you think about parents being guardian angels of their children, they'll be probably more in the category of familiar spirits, right? It's not impossible. Again, nothing is impossible. And I was mentioning here to Elmo Luisa before the meeting today that I read an article on the Spiritist Review of 1862, if I'm not mistaken, of a young boy that discarnated when he was 7 years old, and he was brought to give a communication by by Kardec in his group, and he said that he was the guardian angel of his mother, that he took a break from being guardian angel of his mother to incarnate for 7 years because he had the necessity, the parents and him, and then when he was back at the spiritual world, he would reassume the role of being guardian angel of the mother. So you see how it can vary in terms of what can be a guardian angel. But one thing is for sure, the guardian angel has to be more evolved than the spirit, the incarnated spirit. He or she is a guardian angel because they are supposed to guide, protect, inspire the spirit that they are the guardian angel. They have to be more elevated because they have to have a better vision and understanding of our role as eternal spirits, right? We talked last week about, a guardian angel cannot get angry at us for not following the best path. They have to understand our limitations, our imperfections, and accept that we are going to fail in some of our tasks without getting angry or leave us behind. That doesn't happen. So the guardian angel has to be a more evolved spirit than the spirit they are guardian. We're going to see a question, not the next one, the other one, about primitive spirits, right? That they also have a guardian angel.
508.
Just a sec. Anna is going to talk loud.
Since you've been reading all these reviews, we know that the methodology used by Kardec of checking with multiple mediums, and that was what drove the questions and the answers. They were verified so many times. Is it the same with the review? Because that particular case that you just mentioned, did multiple mediums communicate with this particular spirit? I would imagine not, but we just assume because of the credibility of Kardec that.
No, it's a very good question, Anna, because an important question. We have to question that, right? Because the Spiritist Review, it's not the books of the codification. They are, Kardec, when he started, he said, it's an open forum for discussion. So many of the communications that are there, you can read the communication and kind of question yourself about it. But you have, he always had the guidance of St. Louis and other protecting spirits that would make comments on these questions. And some of the questions, and you see the communication, and then you see a comment either by Kardec or by St. Louis or other, saying that, we have to understand the limitations, or putting some fancies on the communications of the spirit for us not to accept it blindly. But on this specific one, there were no comments, which makes me think that there was nothing wrong with the communication. But again, it's an open, understanding. If we don't feel comfortable with it, and again, we were discussing here the idea of is a protective spirit the guardian angel that we discussed last week, and I'm of an opinion that not necessarily. That most of the time, yes, but not necessarily. Elmo thinks that it's almost a synonym of protective spirit and guardian angel. I went to study that and I read a lot. It's based on your question, Danny, from last week, right? But my conclusion continues to be that the protective spirit can be separate than the guardian angel. But again, it's open for discussion. Okay.
508.
Yeah.
Can all spirits who have departed the earth under favorable conditions become the guardians of their loved ones who have stayed behind? Their power is restricted by their position, which does not always grant them full freedom of action.
Yeah, again, let's say your grandmother discarnated and she loves you very much and she wants to be your guardian angel, right? First, you probably already have a guardian angel, right? So she cannot replace the guardian. It can be replaced, but it's unlikely. But more important, she needs to be more evolved than you are. And normally here, as we are progressing, most of the parents are not more evolved than their children. They can be, but a lot of the children are more evolved than their parents, right? Morally. So it's a question of where the parents find themselves, and it's much easier for us to understand them as familiar spirits, right? That love us and wants to continue helping and assisting us, right? Than becoming a guardian angel. Can they become? Yes, but it's not, it wouldn't be very common. I think it would be very rare, actually. But again, as we saw in the case of the 7-year-old who was the guardian angel of his mother, possible, right?
$509. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Do primitive and morally inferior human beings have protective spirits? If so, are these spirits of the same order as those of civilized humanity? All human beings have a spirit who watches over them, but their missions depend on their charge. A child who is learning to read does not have a professor of philosophy for this task. The advancement of the familiar spirit is always relative to that of the spirit it protects. While you have a higher spirit who watches over you, you may in turn become the guardian of a spirit who is lower than you. The progress you help that person make contributes to your own advancement. God does not ask for more from a spirit than its nature and degree of evolution can provide.
Again, we go to the basics, right? That all incarnated spirits have a guardian angel. Now, primitive spirit, less evolved spirit, just needs a spirit that is more advanced than him or her. So, and again, you are not going to put a very high order spirit in charge of someone who doesn't need, right? Like the comparison, they say use here, the spirits use here, a child who is learning to read does not have a professor of philosophy for this task, right? It has to be someone that understands how to teach a child to read. Maybe a philosophy professor doesn't even know how to teach a child to learn how to read, right? So can we be guardian angels of primitive spirits? Yes, we can. At our level of evolvement, we have already enough moral advancement and intellectual advancement, as long as that we are, we want to take that mission to be a guardian angel of a primitive or morally inferior spirit. Again, unlikely, because we, at our stage of evolution, we need to focus on other parts of our evolution. But yes, definitely we can, right? So it's according to their degree of evolution, the guardian angel will be a spirit more evolved than the spirit they are taking care of. So a primitive spirit can have a guardian angel, which may be even less evolved than we are here, but it just needs to what? A primitive spirit lives on instinct, right? Makes decisions based on their instincts. So if you have a spirit there that knows a little bit of what's good and what's bad for them in their primitive life, it's enough, right? Because they are going to start, their thinking process is still it's already continuous because it's a spirit, right? But it's very primitive. It's very, what do I do to survive? So if you have a spirit that whispering in their ears of course, without them knowing it, a spirit that our level of evolution, you already know how to guide the primitive spirit, don't go out in the when it's pouring rain and it's a danger of being struck by lightning or something like that, right? The basics, we know the basics. We can guide a primitive spirit, right? So that's the idea. You don't need a Mother Teresa to guide a spirit that is living in the forest trying to just survive. God does not ask for more from a spirit than its nature and degree of evolution can provide. That's all. Okay?
But at the same time, as you mentioned, we still have much to work on. So I would imagine it makes more sense for us to be reincarnated than to stop over there and help somebody else. Maybe a more evolved spirit can take on a bunch of us and the less evolved ones all at once, instead of us interrupting our next incarnation. I don't know, maybe there's...
yeah, but if you think that on our evolution process, we need to learn a little bit of everything, right? And can't you learn? Because what is one incarnation of a primitive spirit? 30 years, 25 years? It's nothing, right? Can't you spend, when you are in the spiritual world, the eternal spirit, can't you spend 25 years learning how to be a guardian angel of someone? I think it's a good opportunity. It's something that we may want to do, right? Because it's not a very long time. You don't need to follow that first. It's unlikely that you are going to have a personal relationship with the spirit. It's not someone that you love. It's someone you are there to learn. You are taking a mission. It is a mission. But there is nothing really that connects you and that spirit in terms of affection. Of course, you are going to develop affection for that spirit because living 25 years or 30 years with the spirit, you are going to develop affection at our level of evolution. But it's a good opportunity. So why not, right? Because who are going to be the guardian angels of primitive incarnated spirits? It has to be someone at our level or even lower. It just needs to be morally evolved, right? A little bit. Willing to evolve morally, because you cannot it cannot be a spirit that is still inclined to fall to their imperfections and use those to to misguide the spirit is protecting. That cannot happen. But
it's valid the answer here, right? The progress you help that person make contributes to your own advancement.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
510. When parents who watch over their child reincarnate, do they continue to watch over them? This task becomes more difficult, but while free, parents may ask a like-minded spirit to assist them in accomplishing it. However, spirits do not undertake missions they cannot see through to the end. An incarnate spirit, especially in heavy material worlds, is debilitated by its body and cannot devote itself entirely to another. For this reason, those who are not elevated enough to serve as guardian angels are assisted by higher spirits, so that if the help of one spirit should fail, its place is filled by another.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, this question, in my opinion, right? Because what's exactly the parent watching so the parents will have a child, and do they continue to watch over there? When they return to the spiritual world? Yeah, they love their children. They will continue taking care of them, right? But when parents are incarnated, they're parents. They're not guardian angels. But it's interesting when they put here, those who are not elevated enough to serve as guardian angels are assisted by higher spirits, which refers to the previous question we were discussing, right? You are not going to be a guardian angel at our level without supervision, right? You have to have supervision. We have our own guardian angel. We go back to the spiritual world. We are being guardian angel of a primitive spirit. We have our own guardian angel to guide us, to teach us, for us to be instructed, right? And as it says, if the help of one spirit should fail, its place is filled by another. Again, the mission of a guardian angel is for the spirit to succeed that they are guarding. But we have free will, right? And things happen, and so we discussed this in the past week, right? The guardian angel can be changed. It's unlikely, but it can be changed during incarnation for different reasons. Okay.
511. With the exception of protective spirits, are there wicked spirits who attach themselves to individuals to tempt them and cause them to struggle between good and bad? Attached is not accurate. It is very true that bad spirits try to draw you from the path of righteousness when they find an opportunity to do so. However, when one of them attaches to an individual, it does so simply because it hopes the person is going to listen to them. In such a case, there is a struggle between a good and a bad spirit, and whoever successfully influences the individual prevails.
Okay, so when we talk about our less evolved spirits attaching to us, and the spirits say attached is not the accurate word, connected to us, the first thing we need to remember, there are two types of inferior spirits that are going to attach to us. One would be that they have nothing personal, but they are attracted by our imperfections, our actions towards, let's say you like to drink, they're going to accompany you to a bar because they want to feel the sensation of you drinking. It fulfills them. But it's not personal. If you quit drinking, they move to someone else that drinks, which is, so these are the easy ones. The problem are the ones that we have a past with, right? So they can try to influence us to not progress, because by us progressing, they need to rethink their own lives and make an effort to progress. You know, misery loves company, the phrase misery loves company, or because they have some problems with us referred to our past. They want to they're angry at us. They want to get revenge against us. So these are even more difficult, because they are going to make use of our imperfections to try to influence us. That's when there is a struggle between a good and bad spirit, because our protecting spirits, our guardian angels, our familiar spirits, will try to protect us from these less evolved spirits trying to cause us harm. But in the end, is our free will, our own choices with whom we are going to connect according to our vibrations. If we allow ourselves to lower our vibrations and enter into the same vibrations of these inferior spirits, they will be able to influence us and to cause us harm. If we fight against our inferior tendencies, the protection of the superior spirits or a guardian angel or familiar spirits will be more effective in helping us protect ourselves. Whoever successfully influences that individual prevails. That's the key point here, right? And that's when we are going to open ourselves to their influence. Okay.
512.
Now we have this going back to protective spirits.
Could we have multiple protective spirits? Every one of you has a number of sympathetic spirits of varying degrees of elevation around you. They care about you out of love, and you have others who help you to do wrong as well.
So the answer from the spirits here is not about protective spirits, right? So they didn't answer that we can have more than one. They said that every one of you has a number of sympathetic spirits of varying degrees of elevation. And again, you think of André Luiz, right? His mother. His mother, of course, is a familiar spirit, right? But it's a spirit that's more elevated than him. So you can call her a protective spirit. She wasn't his guardian angel. She was not his guardian angel. When we read Nosso, of course, André Luiz never mentions about guardian angels, his own guardian angels, and that was something that we discussed last week also, right? When we talk about, do we continue to have guardian angels in the spiritual world when we are discarnated? And my answer is, I think so, but I don't think that they are so active, because there in the spiritual world, we don't need the protection of the guardian angel as intensively as we need here. We may need them for some advice. André Luiz, in the books, he has different mentors, right? And I like the word mentors that you brought, because I think it's a good one. We have spirits. The important thing is you have a number of sympathetic spirits of varying degrees of elevation around you. So we have those that are more evolved than us. We have those that just love us, and sometimes they are at the same level as us, or maybe even a little bit below. But they care about us, and they want to help us and to protect us. And on Mondays, we see a lot of these loving spirits come to rescue their loved ones, right? They are not the guardian angels. They are probably not protective spirits. They are familiar, sympathetic spirits that want to help, mostly familiar spirits that want to help those struggling, right? They are more evolved than the spirit that is struggling and coming here, because they are already in a better place than the spirit that is struggling and coming here. But you cannot guarantee they are much more evolved than the spirits that come here, right? With some exceptions, sometimes we see some spirits of light coming here. Right?
513. Are sympathetic spirits forced to act as part of a mission? In some cases, they may have a temporary mission, but they usually are drawn to an individual because they share similar good or bad sentiments. So it is correct to assume that sympathetic spirits can be either good or bad. Yes, human beings are always surrounded by spirits who are in sympathy with them, whatever their nature may be.
So again, sympathetic spirits can be good or bad. It's important because they are sympathetic to our inclinations. So if we have bad inclinations, we're going to attract sympathetic spirits that are that connect to us through their own bad inclinations. If we have good inclinations or willingness to improve ourselves, we're going to have sympathetic spirits that are connected to us to help us. It could be part of a mission. It could be a temporary mission if they are here to help us. We will never call a mission a spirit that is a negative spirit trying to influence us to do wrong, right? That's not a mission. Mission is always implies a positive action, an action to help us evolve. Okay. I think the next question is going to explain the difference between all these type of spirits. Okay.
514. Are familiar spirits the same as sympathetic spirits and protective spirits? There are many levels of protection and sympathy, and you may call them whatever you like. A familiar spirit is usually a friend of the home. Based on the above explanations and observing the nature of spirits connected to human beings, we can draw the following conclusions. Protective spirits or guardian angels have a mission to accompany the individual they are protecting over the course of their lives and help them to advance. The degree of perfection in these protective spirits is always superior to that of their charges. Familiar spirits connect with specific people for longer or short period of time to be useful to them within the confines of their possibilities, which can be quite narrow. They have the best intentions, but sometimes can be inappropriate and even flippant. They are concerned with the everyday details of human life and only act when permitted or ordered by a protective spirit. Sympathetic spirits are drawn to us by personal affection and similar good or bad intentions. The length of their relationship with us is almost always dependent on circumstances. A wicked spirit is an imperfect or perverse spirit who connects with someone in order to corrupt them. It acts of its own volition with no mission, and its persistence is proportionate to the access granted to it. A person is always free to follow the suggestions of a bad spirit or to resist them.
Okay. So, familiar spirits, sympathetic spirits, protective spirits. Many levels of protection and sympathy. The spirits tell us we can call whatever we like. But a familiar spirit is usually a friend of the home. And then Kardec gives us the explanation here. First, when he talks about protective spirits, it is written familiar spirits there is wrong. It's not in the original. It's protective spirits or guardian angels. In the original French, there is another term that doesn't have a translation into English, the genius spirits. So that doesn't, in Portuguese also they say, but in English you cannot say that, genius. Yeah. In French it says the génie spirit. Yeah, but so here we talk about protective spirits or guardian. They have a mission to accompany the individuals they're protecting over the course of their lives and help them to advance. That's the definition of a protective spirit or guardian angel. And the degree is always superior to the people they are protecting. We studied that in past weeks, right? That they are always connected to us, but they are not always present, because if we don't allow ourselves to receive their advices, they will continue doing their own things there in the spiritual world, and they will come when needed and we are open to listen. Or when we are just not doing anything special, we don't really need their help and assistance because we are doing the right things, living our normal lives, they will be waiting for us. They are not, trying to influence us 24/7. They are available to us 24/7 when we need, but they are not connected to us at all times. And then when Kardec talks about familiar spirits, it's interesting that he says they have the best intentions, but sometimes can be inappropriate and even flippant, right? We can only think, we have just to think about our parents, right? Is 100% of the advices that our parents give to us correct? No, sometimes they're overprotective, sometimes they are very little protective, give good advices, bad advices, and we have to make our choices and listen to them or not. So when they go back to the spiritual world, they'll continue to try to influence us according to who they are, right? And they sometimes they can be interfere a little bit too much, try to interfere a little bit too much. Are we going to listen to them? It's the importance is for us to follow our own paths, right? To listen to our own ideas and follow what we think is the correct choices that we have to make. And know that they are there because they love us. So it's not they don't want to cause any harm. They are just there to help and assist us, and they are available to us if we need them. I was listening to a program this week about a lady that lost her husband, and she was recently, and she was very upset, very disturbed, and the person that was answering said, you have to remember that your former husband wants you, your husband wants you to be happy, wants you to help your family, and wants to be connected to you. If you are suffering too much, he's going to suffer too much also, right? So it's for us to understand that our connection with our familiar spirits has to be as much as possible in a healthy way, right? Of course, we lose our loved ones. We have a period of mourning. It's natural. We are going to suffer, and according to their relationship with us, we are going to suffer more or less. But we have to, being spiritists, we have to understand our nature as eternal spirits and understand our necessity to go through these trials and come out and at the other end with some learning experiences, even if they are very painful and very difficult. So our familiar spirits are there to help us. We just need to allow them to be around us and to connect with them through prayers, through praying for them, asking them to pray for us, and we can use their help during our daily lives. And then we have the sympathetic spirits that we just discussed, right? They are drawn to us by personal affection and similar good and bad inclinations. They are attracted to our own interests, right? So, You like to gossip, you're going to have spirits around you that like to gossip also. And the length of the relationships is almost always dependent on circumstance. So in this example, you decide, oh, okay, I'm causing only harm to myself with all this gossip. Let me stop gossiping. And if you really follow through on your willingness to stop gossiping, the spirit will move away, because the connection was just according to the inclinations, right? And in a way, even if they want it, there is something personal, they won't be able to connect to you if you change your vibration level vibration. And then the wicked spirits, right? Of course, they want to disturb us. They want to, as they say here, to corrupt us. It's no mission. They act of its own volition, and its persistent is proportionate to the access granted to it. That's very important. We, with our own free will, we allow them we grant them the access to us or not. So a person is always free to follow the suggestions of a bad spirit or to resist them. It's according to our free will. Again, very easy to read and to talk about it, but we know with our own daily struggles that sometimes it's difficult to overcome our own imperfections. Okay.
5:15.
Yeah.
What should we think of people who seem to attach themselves to certain individuals to lead them to their downfall or guide them to the right path? Some individuals do, in fact, exercise a type of fascination over others that seems enticing. When used for malicious purposes, it should be attributed to low-order spirits who use contemptible people to more effectively overpower their victim. God may permit this as a means of enduring a trial.
Again, we are going to talk here about, we talked a lot about individual spirits, right? But we can have spirits that want to cause harm to a group of people that can attach themselves to an individual that has the characteristics of someone that will attract a following, right? So, low order spirits who use contemptible people to more effectively overpower their victims. So sometimes a spirit will use, they want to attack you, but because you are not opening yourself to the vibration that they have, they are going to try to use a loved one, a neighbor, a work colleague, because they know how to get to you. They cannot get to you directly, but they know how to get to you indirectly. So yes, they will try to influence us through indirect means. And when the spirits talk about God may permit this, again, it's our own free will, right? It's on our own trials and atonements that we have to face. We have to face our own challenges to evolve. And sometimes, you know, for you to overcome your imperfections, you have to test them. You have to see if you can face the opportunity to overcome them. Okay.
5:16. Could our good or bad guardian incarnate to more closely follow us in our human life? Sometimes, but they more frequently entrust this mission to an incarnate spirits with whom they identify.
Again, it's a question here, are good or bad guardian, meaning a good spirit or bad spirit trying to influence us, can they incarnate to more closely disturb us or follow us or protect us? The efficiency of being in the spiritual world is much greater than the efficiency of being incarnated around us. They can help us or cause us more harm being in the spiritual world than being incarnated in general terms. Again, sometimes they can if that's necessary for some reason, but more frequently, what they do is they will use other incarnate spirits to help us, to give us advice, good advice, or to disturb us, like we mentioned in the previous question, right? To influence spirit to cause us harm or pain or things like that, according to our own free will.
Why are they more powerful in the spirit world?
Because they have more freedom in the spiritual world, a better vision of the whole, right? When you are incarnated, you have a restricted view of the world because the physical body restrains your ability to express yourself. For us, we may think that because we're incarnated and we can talk directly, theoretically we could be more, we could influence more. But actually, when we are in the spiritual world, the toolbox is much bigger with instruments that they can use to help or disturb us, right? If you remember the book Liberation, right, that we were studying, that you have Gregorio leading the group of spirits trying to cause that girl to die. What was her name? I forgot her name now. Of course, I forgot her name. And then André Luis and the mentors, they go there and they go to visit Gregorio and they have an allowance. So you see in that book, you see all the tools that the spiritual world have, the low order spirits have in the spiritual world to try to cause harm to the incarnates. And their influence could be done through other incarnate spirits. There is at a point the husband goes to a medium, a paid medium, and the André Luis and the mentor have to protect them from the influence of the paid medium. The bad spirits want the paid medium to influence them negatively. So they were trying to use the paid medium. So it is basically, Paco, because they have more tools in the spiritual world to influence us, good or bad. So that's what they are trying to say.
Mix their own thought with our thoughts, in a much more secret way. They may even think that is your own thoughts. So it makes things a lot more difficult than to hear a person talk to you side by side and you know that it's come from a second person. If you have enough affinity with those individuals, they will be able to influence you, but by bringing their own thoughts to your mind, they may even think that it's your own thoughts if you're not vigilant. That comes the suggestion of Christ, be vigilant.
Thanks.
$5.17. Do spirits attach themselves to every member of a family to protect them? Some spirits attach themselves to family members who live together and are united by affection, but you must not think that guardian spirits are guilty of racial pride.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because that was not the question, right? They were talking about a family, right? Yes, a family will have spirits, familiar spirits and protective spirits, right? Because if you think of, let's say, your grandmother, your familiar spirit, she's interested in you, but she's also interested in her other grandsons and daughters, her daughter, her son, daughter, or others. So she can be attached to the whole family. Doesn't really need to be to you particularly, right? I don't know why the spirits bring here the racial pride, but maybe it's a preparation for the next question. What we should understand here is, of course, spirits have no races, no gender, no races, and perfect spirits. So they are not going to have any make any choices in terms of races or things like that. Of course, you have protecting spirits of and we're going to see this later, of cities, of groups, of cities, of countries, and Jesus above them all, protecting our whole planet. But there is no preference for a group or another in terms of racial differences. Okay.
518. As spirits are attracted to individuals based on their like-mindedness, are they attracted to groups of individuals for special purposes? Spirits go where they meet others like them, where they are more at ease and sure that someone will listen to them. Everyone attracts spirits according to their predispositions, whether as an individual or as an element of a collective whole, such as a society, city, or country. Societies, cities, and countries are visited by various spirits according to their predominant character and passions. Imperfect spirits withdraw from those who resist them. The moral excellence of collective wholes, like that of individuals, drives away bad spirits and attracts good ones, who maintain the sense of good among the masses, as others may spread the worst passions.
Read the next one, because it's related.
519. Do amalgamations of individuals, such as societies, cities, and countries, have their own special guardian spirits? Yes, because they constitute collective individualities pursuing a common goal, and that needs higher direction.
Okay, so when we talk about groups, right, starting from family to, to neighborhoods, to societies, to cities, to countries, they have their own special guardian spirits, spirits that are responsible for a larger number of people. And we know, for instance, we talked many times, they talked about the protecting spirit of Brazil, right? That's called Ismael. And the protecting spirit of France, that is King Louis IX, right? Saint Louis. The protecting spirits of this country, you can talk about Abraham Lincoln, Benjamin Franklin, and other spirits like that. And we talk about the governor of the planet, who is Jesus, right? We say, always, don't worry, Jesus, it's always in the driver's seat. So they are going to, these spirits are going to be responsible for groups. Of course, they are going to be more evolved than as a guardian angel, right, of one individual. Because if you are responsible for a society, you are responsible for a city, you have to be with a higher degree of elevation. You just have to think of Nosso Lar. There is a governor of Nosso Lar, which has the description, has been there for 200 years, and things like that, right? So, of course, you have a degree of spirits taking care of cities, countries, etc. Countries have a president, right, or a prime minister, or a king. And you, under the king or prime minister or president, you have the group of workers that work directly with them, the ministers, the secretaries. And then under the secretaries, you have another group of people doing different functions. So if we are a bad copy of the spiritual world, you can only conclude that the spiritual world has also the spirit that is responsible for the country, other spirits that are responsible for different sections of the country, different responsibilities of the country. It does not mean that the influence of inferior spirits cannot cause damage, right? Because if you think of let's say a country that enters into a war, decides to go into a war, where is the protecting spirit of that country, right? Well, free will, right? The responsible for deciding to go to war has their free will, listen to inferior spirits that want the fight to happen for different reasons, because they enjoy fight, or because they don't like the other country that is being invaded, or the other tribe. So it doesn't mean that the protecting spirit of that country took vacations. They are there. They actually are even more present there when something bad is happening, because he or she is trying to amplify the level of protection of that society, right? But of course, we have our free will. We individually, we as a collective, we have our free will, we make our choices, and we follow with our choices, good or bad, and there are consequences for it, right? So what we need to understand is that there is also always more elevated plan for everything. There are superior spirits in charge of everything, and they can see further than we can see. So if a country is going in the wrong direction, they may see in the future what is the positive aspect that is going to come out of it, right? We give the example, we like to give the example of the Black Plague in Europe, right? That killed half to 2/3 of the population of Europe. Where were the guardian angels of all these people and all these countries, right? Well, when you look back, the society was stuck in the feudal age, right? And for society to change, for the Renaissance to come, there had to be a big event like that. And because these spirits, they can see further, they will kind of sit back and allow these things to happen, because they can see that the positive in the end is what's important. Of course, individually, you are going to talk about someone that lost their whole family and survived the Black Plague. This individual cannot be happy, right? It will be suffering a lot. But you see the bigger picture, and you understand the necessity of these things sometimes, when we are going to study the law of destruction, which is one of the laws that Kardec brings in the moral laws. We are going to see that sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's the only way we can change, right? Okay. Okay, I think we still have some questions to go, but let's go another one, then we stop.
520. Do the guardian spirits of groups of people have a higher ranking than those who connect to individuals? Their advancement is always proportionate to the degree of advancement of the humans involved, just as with individuals.
Yeah, it's again, we talked about this, but let's think about a tribe of primitive individuals, right? Does a tribe has a protecting spirit for the whole tribe? Yes, why not, right? It's a more evolved spirit than the individual guardian angels of the members of the tribe. It's looking for the tribe as a whole. It doesn't need to be a much more evolved spirit, but it needs to be more evolved than the ones that are protecting the individuals, right? Which is already, as we discussed before, is already could be a mission, it could be a preparation, it could be a way of them to evolve, also to learn how to deal with a group of spirits together as a preparation for the future, right? If you are going to become a leader of a country, of a city, of anything like that, can't you prepare yourself when you are in the spiritual world by protecting a group of spirits, a tribe, or a small community. It could be the way to learn, right? To prepare yourself for something that you want to perform when you are here incarnated. Okay. Right. Any final questions here? Okay, so we still have 4 questions left in this subject. So we finish next week. Okay. So this Saturday, the lecture we have, the talk we have on the United Spiritist Federation is by Leah Gouveia from Washington, and she's going to talk about be of good cheer. Sunday, which is the first Sunday of the month, we are going to study the book Action and Reaction. I forgot what chapter. I think it's chapter 5. I think it's chapter 5. Yes. The book club next week, chapter 6 and 7 of A Light in the Darkness by Divaldo Franco and Joana de Angelis. Okay. Elmo, can you do your final prayer?
And we give thanks to God for the opportunity of being together, for all they received from our spiritual benefactors who come to our home to inspire, to provide to us their blessed energies. We ask for inspiration, guidance throughout the week, to be protected, to be inspired, to be vigilant, to do our best to apply all that we learn here in our daily lives to the best of our abilities. May we be able to be back here next week, hopefully a little bit better than what we are today, ready and willing to learn and to share the very little that you have to offer. And permission to close this meeting. So be it.